I took care of my brother's son for 10 years, but on his deathbed, my brother told me the child was actually mine. He begged me to raise his child when he lost his wife, and for 10 years, I did everything a father would do. But I never expected that on his deathbed, he'd whisper a truth that would turn my entire life into a lie. The night Damien came to my door, he looked like a man carrying the weight of death. His wife Clara had died in childbirth, and he stood there soaked in rain, trembling, with a newborn wrapped in a blanket pressed against his chest. He said he couldn't handle it. Said he needed time. Said I was the only person he trusted enough to care for his son until he could find his footing. I didn't even think twice. Damien was my brother, older by 2 years, always louder, always the one in charge. We'd fought as kids but had each other's backs through everything. If he needed me, I was there. So I took the baby. Liam. I never saw him as a burden. I watched him learn to walk, heard his first words, stayed up all night when he had fevers. While Damien drifted in and out, sometimes gone for months, I was the one Liam called uncle, but the bond was deeper than that. Sometimes when he hugged me, I'd catch myself wishing, just wishing he was mine. Years passed. Damien barely visited anymore. He'd call on birthdays, sometimes send money. But it was me who raised Liam, took him to school, taught him how to ride a bike. I gave him everything I had. Then, out of nowhere, Damien collapsed during a business trip. The diagnosis was aggressive pancreatic cancer. By the time I got to the hospital, they were already saying he didn't have much time left. He looked like a shadow of himself, thin, sunken eyes, voice barely above a whisper. I sat beside him through the night, until he suddenly grabbed my hand. "I need to tell you something," he rasped. "What is it?" I asked, leaning in. He stared at me, tears filling his eyes. "It's about Liam." My stomach tightened. "What about him?" He took a long, trembling breath, and then he said words I wasn't prepared for. Words that would unravel everything I thought I knew about my brother, about Clara, and about myself. Damien gripped my hand tighter, his fingers bony and cold. "He's not my son," he whispered. "Liam, he's yours." My body went numb. I blinked at him, thinking maybe he was delirious. "What?" He coughed violently, his body shaking against the bed. The nurse rushed in and adjusted something in his fore, but I barely noticed. My ears were ringing. "He's your son, not mine," Damien said again, quieter now, like he was unraveling the guilt that had eaten him alive for 10 years. "Clara, she was with you. Once. Before we got married." I pulled my hand away, standing up, my legs weak beneath me. "That's not possible. That was one night. Years ago. We were drunk. It was a mistake." "I know," he rasped. "She didn't tell me until after we got married. Said she wasn't sure. But later, she was. She saw it in Liam's eyes. Your eyes." I felt like the room was spinning. My mouth was dry. Why didn't she say anything? She wanted peace. A family. I loved her, and she said she'd keep it between us. But I couldn't live with it. He closed his eyes, tears escaping the corners. I didn't know how to be his father. Not really. That's why I left him with you. It wasn't just grief. It was guilt. Shame. I stumbled back against the wall, my chest tightening as memories came rushing in. Liam falling asleep on my chest. Liam calling me from school when he got scared. Liam saying, "Uncle, you're my favorite person." He was mine. My knees buckled and I sank into the hospital chair, staring at the man I thought I knew. Damien, who always took what he wanted, who never apologized, who left and came back on his own time. And now he was leaving for good, leaving me with the truth, the weight of a secret I hadn't asked for but somehow always felt. "How could you do this to me?" I whispered, my voice shaking. "How could you lie to both of us?" He didn't answer. His breathing was slower now. Shallow. "I raised him like he was mine," I said through clenched teeth. "And now you're telling me he is?" Damien turned his face toward me, his voice barely audible. "You were always the better man." And with that, he closed his eyes. The monitors beeped. The nurse stepped in to check. I couldn't move. I couldn't cry. I couldn't breathe, because I knew what came next. I'd have to tell Liam. And I didn't even know where to start. I didn't tell Liam right away. For days, I walked through the house like a ghost. His laughter echoed from his room, his sneakers in the hallway, his drawings on the fridge. All reminders of a child I thought was my nephew. But now I knew he was so much more. I stood outside his door one evening, heart pounding. He was humming to himself, working on a project for school, probably something about planets or sea creatures. I used to help him with those, telling him silly facts just to see him laugh. But tonight, I had no facts. Just a truth that could shatter the only reality he'd ever known. I knocked lightly. "Come in," he called. He was on the floor, glue stick in one hand, colorful cutouts around him. "Hey," I said, kneeling beside him. "What chum making?" "Solar system," he grinned. "Look, Earth's the biggest, 'cause that's where you live." I smiled tightly, throat tightening. "Liam," I said slowly, "can we talk for a bit?" He paused, sensing something in my voice. "Am I in trouble?" "No," I said quickly. "Not at all. I just need to tell you something. About your dad. And about me." He sat up straighter. He listened as I started slowly, carefully. I told him Damien had passed. I had already broken that news 2 days before. But this time, I added more. "There's something he told me before he died," I said, voice barely holding steady. "Something important. About you." He looked at me, his eyes wide and still innocent. "What is it?" I took a breath that felt like swallowing glass. He said, "You're not just my nephew. You're my son." Silence. He blinked, then blinked again. That's not funny," he whispered. "I'm not joking, Liam." He shook his head, standing up abruptly. "No. My dad was my dad. He told me. He showed me pictures. He told me stories. I know he did," I said, standing with him. "And he raised you for a while. But before he married your mom, she and we had a past. A short one. He found out later. And when your mother died, he left you with me not just because he needed help, but because he believed I was your real father." Liam was breathing fast now. "So what? All this time you knew?" "No," I said quickly. "I didn't know. I swear. Liam, I only found out days ago. I would never have lied to you." He turned away from me, his shoulders trembling. "Why'd he lie?" His voice cracked. "Why'd she lie? Why did everyone lie?" I stepped forward, cautiously. "I don't have all the answers. But I do know this. I've loved you from the moment I held you. Whether I was your uncle or your father, didn't matter to me. I was never going to leave." He turned, eyes wet. "But it matters to me now." "I know," I whispered. "And I'll be here. However long it takes for you to figure out what this means for you. I'm not going anywhere, Liam." He didn't say a word, just walked past me slowly and disappeared into his room, shutting the door gently behind him. And I stood there in the hallway, not as a man who had lost a brother, but as a father waiting to be chosen. The next few days were quiet. Liam barely spoke to me. He still came to the table for meals, still packed his backpack every morning, still brushed his teeth before bed, but it was like someone had dimmed the light inside him. I gave him space. As much as it hurt to not hear him call out for me or ask about my day, I knew this wasn't something I could fix with a joke or a hug. This wasn't a scraped knee or a broken toy. This was his whole identity, shaken and reassembled without warning. One night, I heard rustling downstairs around midnight. I got up, half asleep, and found him curled on the couch with a photo album in his lap. He didn't flinch when I sat beside him. "This was his handwriting, right?" he asked, pointing to a date scribbled in the corner of a photo. I nodded. "Yeah. Damien always wrote dates on pictures. Said memories were like timestamps, clearer when you pinned them down." Liam stared at a photo of the three of us from when he was maybe 4. Damien holding him up like he was flying. Me laughing in the background. "Why didn't he tell me?" Liam asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I exhaled. I think he wanted to protect you, and maybe protect himself. He didn't know for sure, not until the end. And by then, I think he didn't want to change what you already believed. Liam turned the page slowly. But now everything feels fake. It wasn't, I said firmly. Every bedtime story, every soccer game, every time I sat through your school plays and cheered like a fool, that was real. I didn't do those things because I had to. I did them because I love you. His lip trembled. Do I have to call you Dad now? My throat tightened again. No, I said gently. Not unless you want to. You can call me whatever feels right. I just want you to know who you are, and who I am to you. The rest, we'll figure out together. He was quiet for a long moment, then leaned into my side. I don't know what to call this feeling, he mumbled. Confused, I offered. Angry, hurt, all of it, he said. But also warm. I put my arm around him, pulling him close. That's love, buddy. It's messy sometimes, but it stays. And for the first time since Damien's death, Liam didn't pull away. He just sat there, pressed into me, as the photo album slowly slipped from his lap to the floor. We didn't fix everything that night. Some things still needed time. But in that silence, in that shared heartbeat of grief, truth, and unspoken forgiveness, we began to heal. Together, father and son. At last. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories.